Welcome to Bridging the Bayou, where we will explore what it means to work, live, and play in the Bayou region. Join us as we take a deeper dive into the people and experiences that make our region such a special place to live and work. On each podcast, we will talk to individuals who are making our region grow and go, who are making strides in uplifting our community. This year, Fletcher Technical Community College is celebrating its 75th anniversary, 75 years of changing lives. This is a podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College.
This is Ben Malbrough, Chairman of the Fletcher Foundation Board. I'm really looking forward to sitting down and talking about all the exciting things happening at Fletcher today, as well as reflecting on the impacts the college has made as we celebrate its 75th anniversary.
Welcome back to Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. I'm Kristine Strickland, your host and chancellor here at Fletcher. And today I am joined by Mr. Ben Malbrough, Vice President of GIS Engineering and Chair of the Fletcher Foundation. Welcome to the podcast, Ben.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Hopefully you'll still feel that way by the time we're done. All right. Well, look, we always like to start with some get-to-know-you questions. We call it 5 in 5, although I'm now changing it to 5 in 5-ish because everybody gives me a hard time that sometimes we don't get through it in 5 minutes. So you ready?
Fire away.
All right, let's do this. Something you are good at that most people would never guess.
I can say my ABCs backwards pretty quick.
Really?
I like to think I'm a decent golfer.
Okay.
You know, I believe that I was originally put on this earth to be a race car driver. So when I've had the opportunity to compete in go-kart races, whether it be in Orange Beach or Panama City or even at the NOLA Motor Speedway,
okay,
I feel like I'm pretty good. And surprisingly, you know, the people I dominate on the track, they judging by their reaction, they didn't expect me to be
They didn't see it
decent.
coming, huh?
So, yeah.
Well, look, that might have taken care of one of our other questions, which is if you woke up tomorrow with a completely different career, what would it be?
A caddy on the PGA Tour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so not a race car driver.
Not a race car driver. I've always wanted to be a caddy.
Yeah?
You know, I love golf. I like to play golf. I'm not as good as I'd like to be. But, you know, having the opportunity to be walking around on golf courses and at least helping someone else be really good at it was always something that's kind of intrigued me since I was a kid. So,
All right. Where'd the love of golf come from? Did you pick it up when you were little?
randomly enough. So when I was little, you know, my dad had an engineering company and mom worked at the office. So being one of 6 kids, we typically had, you know, a housekeeper or a babysitter shuttling us around to school and activities. And one of them happened to be a golfer, had just picked up the game. And we have a big empty lot next to my house in Berg. And one day I came home from school and he was whacking golf balls in the yard, and it made it tricky because he was left-handed. And so we went digging through the garage and in the shed and the attic, and we actually found some old golf clubs that my dad had, and that's where it started, randomly. Growing up playing tennis and, you know, baseball and basketball and football, never ever thought I'd be a golfer if you'd have asked me when I was 10 or 11 years old, but yeah, well, as soon as I hit the first golf ball, I feel like I was hooked.
That's awesome. Well, I love golf too. And actually, my dad was a lefty.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that was one of my gifts. My dad asked me to, well, I went to college back when you had to do PE. You had a PE requirement to graduate, so I took golf. And he bought me my own set of clubs because I couldn't play with his. But
well, it wasn't a requirement when I was in college, but I played enough golf that I considered it my PE
there you go.
Credit.
Your
So,
PE credit.
yeah.
All right. Thanks for making me feel a little younger.
That's the way I convinced myself it was okay to go.
There you go. All right. If your life were a movie, what song would be playing in the opening scene? Caddyshack?
No. I mean, honestly, it'd probably be some Adam Sandler song.
Okay.
You know, I've always loved the songs that he come up with. Obviously, a lot of them are somewhat inappropriate. And so maybe a majority of your audience may not know any of them. But yeah, it's probably some goofy song that Adam Sandler wrote.
All right.
And recorded on the clean version of his CDs.
Gotcha. So if you're watching or listening out there, feel free to Google Adam Sandler songs. And don't blame us if you don't Google the right version. All right. What is the simplest thing that instantly makes your day better?
I'm in my truck a lot lately. And when I hear a song that brings me back out of the run and gun of work and issues and just the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and just kind of brings you back to the important things in life about family. So that usually makes, sometimes I know this is going to surprise you because, I'm a big tough guy on the outside, right? No, but I'm a real softy. And sometimes I find myself, just driving down the road, tearing up, thinking like, God, this life is going by so fast. And just the right music at the right time.
Absolutely.
And it could certainly change the day and make you realize that there's a bigger thing going on. So
absolutely. No, I can completely understand that. And right then in my head, I was hearing Air Supply playing in the background. Do you know who Air Supply is?
Of course.
Okay, good.
The one that's been hitting me lately is I don't even know who the guy is that sings it, but when he talks about this dirt's not free, and he talks about the guys came in to buy his property and wanted to do a big development, and he couldn't let it go because his kids grew up there and the dog's buried there, and so anyway, just the right, an appropriately timed song can get me back on track and make my day go a whole lot better.
There you go. Well, great. All right, last of the 5 for 5. You're almost there. If you could have dinner with your younger self, what advice would you have for them?
Man, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't know that I would change anything.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't.
How awesome is that?
I really don't. I was a little hellraiser. I would have probably told myself to chill a little bit.
Okay.
But I think kind of being a little hellraiser kind of taught me some things lessons later in life that I didn't really know were lessons. And, I really don't know that I would change a whole lot or give myself a tremendous amount of advice. Just don't take life too serious and enjoy the ride. That's probably what I would say. It's just don't rush to the next phase of life. Just enjoy the ride, because good Lord, it goes by so fast.
Yeah. Well, good for you. What a blessing that is that you have, sounds like kind of zero regrets and, going at it full force. All right. So you are the vice president of GIS engineering and an engineer by trade. So tell us a little bit about GIS.
So GIS is a 75-plus-year-old company. Started out as a Grand Isle shipyard, as a shipyard, but immediately kind of molded into, out of necessity, an oil and gas service company. Has really been, tremendous at all of the service lines that we offer in the offshore oil and gas space. And, over that period, the leadership has diversified, and in 2016 decided that they wanted to open up an engineering division. Okay. And so what started out with 3 people in 2016 is now over 300, almost 350 people. Wow. Today. And specifically on the engineering side, we are in 3 main divisions of federal space, industrial space, mostly downstream mechanical, and the division that I sit over is in commercial, state, and local, and we do a lot of work with local governments, municipalities, levee districts, ports, DOTD, CPRA, the whole gamut. A large percentage of our work is in the public sector, something that we just naturally gravitated to. But the company's incredible, and I don't say it. It's a tagline of GIS is that they put people first. And before I joined the company a little over 2 years ago, you heard it, you saw it, but having an opportunity to work in the company and interact with the leadership and have had a relationship with some of the past leadership that have, unfortunately passed away, I really get to see firsthand that, the people in that company really, really do care about the people who work there every day. Sometimes to a fault, quite honestly. And it's been great. I've really enjoyed the change from the public sector back to the private sector.
Okay.
And couldn't be happier to work for a company like GIS for sure.
And they're a company who you can tell is just committed to the community. You sponsor a lot of events. You all show up and show out for community, for nonprofits. And so I'm assuming that is a part of who you are as a company and who you want to be in terms of just really being very grounded.
Absolutely.
Here in this region.
Yeah, every time we venture into a new market or a new region, it's extraordinarily important, not just to myself and my immediate leadership, but all the way up to the CEO and even our ownership groups that, being present in the community is extraordinarily important and always supported. And that's great because, as you know, it's a challenging time to live in this region that we like to call home and we want to call home forever. And so there is a necessity for a lot of the fundraising events, the nonprofits. They're absolutely necessary. And, being able to support them, not just with writing a check or sending a tent, but anytime we call on our staff to participate, we always get a good showing. And that's one of the things I really like.
Awesome. So I want to talk just a little bit about economic development and economic vitality in the region. And from your perspective as an industry leader in this region, what do you see as the challenges and the opportunities that are sort of facing us?
Yeah, well, we were just talking about it before they cut the mics on, and you started grilling me with those challenging questions. I mean, there's a lot of external forces that are fighting against us every day, right? Mother Nature's not our friend. The land is sinking, the seas are rising, the storms are getting more frequent, seem to be getting stronger. The cost to recover is expensive. But we live here understanding that inherent risk, right? And the beautiful thing about where we are in this region is the opportunity that comes with that. Obviously, our port infrastructure is critical, our shipbuilding capabilities here. Our proximity to the Gulf of America and all the wonderful opportunities that has provided all of our families for generations is incredible. And from a workforce development standpoint, it's how do we continue to do everything we can. Our people are resilient. There's no more resilient population. I would put them up against anybody in the world.
Right, it's in our DNA.
We have to continue to speak with one voice against these external forces. Obviously, some of them are things that we can't control, like Mother Nature. Other are outside groups and organizations that come in and tell us how we should live, how we need to live, what we should and shouldn't be doing in our everyday lives. And we got to come together and fight against those and do everything that we're doing to protect what we have, preserve what we have, and just know that it's not going to get easier.
Right.
It's just a brutal reality that, we're going to have to continue to fight and scrape for everything that we have. Even the ability to protect ourselves has gotten to be really complicated. And so that's kind of the doom and gloom side. But the bright side is, the Gulf of America is back and booming, and LNG is a big deal around here. The industrial corridor along the river is rocking and rolling, and so there's a lot of opportunity for all the people in this region who want to stay here. So if we can just get some support to work out a few little nuances that would allow us to stay here, to keep a little bit more of our paychecks, as opposed to having to pay, some inherent risk that we don't agree is actually a risk, i.e. flood insurance and inflated homeowners insurance, and keep that in our pocket, then it's a lot easier for our people to stay here. And, the opportunities here, there's so many opportunities in Port Fourchon, Port of Terrebonne, the shipbuilding opportunities going on. If you talk to any of those folks, the demands that they have offshore oil and gas, the demand for workforce is through the ceiling, you know? And so we just have to figure out how we can continue to keep people here, like build a fence, like Saban used to say when he came to LSU, like, I'm going to build a fence around the state and I'm not going to let any of these athletes out. Well, we kind of have to take on that same mentality. We can't let our talents leave this region, okay? We can let them go for a little while, okay, and figure out that, yeah, go get your education, but there's no better place to live than here. So come back and help us build this better. So
excellent. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So workforce, you know, that's sort of one of our big pushes is the workforce training and trying to get a great workforce talent pipeline here for our region. We're trying to give people an opportunity to get access to those jobs without having to leave home, being able to stay in the region. And I know you're familiar with Fletcher, but from an employer's perspective, right, on that other side, what do you see in terms of the demands and the needs? And then really, how do you see Fletcher stepping in to try to help meet the needs?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think Fletcher has done a tremendous job in stepping in and fulfilling the needs. One of the things you and I have always talk about is Fletcher's ability to be nimble and to be able to react to immediate workforce needs, whether we have an election in Washington that swings one way and all of a sudden, you know, there's pressures to put windmills in the Gulf of Mexico, and then short 4 years later, you know, those are all paused, and, you know, I'm not naive to think that the pendulum's never going to swing back the other way. And so being able to pivot quickly to meet those demands, but not also being reactionary and waiting for the changes, but getting out and talking to the industry leaders around here to understand what are these changes that are coming down the line so that you and the college and the foundation can better align your programs today for workforce needs that are not just for today, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Because, you know, the biggest thing is getting into the community and convincing in some cases that there are high-paying jobs in this region that are in demand today that don't require, you know, I don't want to say don't require a 4-year degree, as if it's some kind of knock on a 4-year degree, but the case point is the lineman program that y'all developed here. I mean, these guys and girls are getting out of this program making substantial earnings right here in their backyard. One is linking industry to the college, right? And understanding early on what the trends that they're seeing so that we can stay ahead of that and maybe not pivot a program, but bring in a component that's complementary to an existing program that then can take a student who, you know, is working in the offshore oil and gas platform. Those are transferable skills that really can be utilized in the LNG space, right? In the petrochemical space on the river, you know? And so, and then not, I say convincing, but that's probably not the right word, but almost educating the young generation around here that no knock on doctors, no knock on lawyers, but you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer to provide for your family, you know, to provide a very, very, you know, honorable income for your family. And so there's a lot of opportunities around here. And we just always, and I say we always have to keep doing it. Like you'll do it a damn good job of it every day. But that's what it's going to take is to convince the kids that are growing up in the bayous today that you don't have to go to Baton Rouge. You don't have to go out of state. You can come right here in Schriever, get an education, and I'm banging on the table. I apologize, and provide for your family. But and then not only that, you know, it's the students or the non-traditional students, as we talk about sometimes, that, you know, may find themselves in a career rut, and it's like, hey, come over here, you know, go get your nursing degree or change your career path, you know, change your trajectory for your whole family. You may have, you know, had some unfortunate circumstances when you were 16, 17, 18 that didn't allow you to really pursue your dreams, and you had to go do something out of necessity, had to get a job somewhere to immediately provide for your family. come back,
Yeah.
pivot. It's never too late. I think that's the hidden gem that Fletcher is and Fletcher continues to evolve to be. And that's what motivates me to keep, showing up on the foundation board and trying to be as impactful as I can.
And look, we were at a recent presentation where, I got to sit up a little taller because the speaker was talking about the future of energy production and how we're going to power not just this region, not just little old Schriever, right here, but the whole nation, and how we are going to export energy. And what she said was, in this presentation is you look at all of these future energy production like LNG and all the things we've talked about. And I heard her say pipe fitters, welders, line workers. And I was like, well, let me sit up because I got all three of those.
That's right. That's
and
right.
So in many ways, I think we can very clearly say the future of energy is on this campus, is in these buildings, is the instruction that's happening in the classrooms. And I'm pretty excited about that.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Yeah. So I'd like to just take a minute because I do sometimes like to explore how you came to be sort of where you are, right? So you talked a little bit about going away for school, and I think you did. I think you're LSU grad, right?
I did.
And you came back.
I came back.
And
not immediately, but I came back.
And my other question is that you decided not to go be a doctor or a lawyer. So I'm wondering, did you wake up in kindergarten and say, I'm going to be an engineer? How did you know that was your passion? Like, what drew you to that? And then what drew you home?
Yeah. So, obviously my dad had an engineering company growing up, and he started his company in the late 80s. And so I was around it. I've grown up hearing the terms Morganza to the Gulf, Donaldsonville to the Gulf, Ag-Mac Channel in Port of Iberia. These are words that I listened to him talk about on the way to elementary school. And so even though I had no idea what it was, I was hearing it all the time. And you would think that I would have been drawn to go into the engineering field, and I really wasn't. When I got to LSU, my original degree, or what I was pursuing, was mass communications.
Ah, you could have been my marketing director.
Well, I wanted to be on Sports Center. I wanted to be one of the Sports Center.
Okay.
I love sports, and I always watched Sports Center growing up. And man, I'll never forget when I walked into that first mass comm class in Baton Rouge at LSU, and I looked around, and it felt like I was in the Civic Center. It was like 2,000 people, and I was like, holy crap.
Right.
Y'all all want to do this too? There's only 3 of them,
Right.
And so I was like,
the odds are
I don't
slim
know
that
about
I'm getting to
this.
Sports Center, right?
So, I went through my first semester, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to fight this. I'm really good at math.
Huh.
I am drawn to now understanding more of what Morganza to the Gulf was. And so, hurricane protection and coastal restoration. And so I changed my major and switched to civil engineering, and graduated from LSU. Started working with the Shaw Group in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
And while I pursued my master's degree at LSU as well, in civil engineering. And when I finished, I stayed working at Shaw, and I loved it there. I never ever thought I would leave that place. I loved the people there. I loved the work that we did, the opportunities that we had being, a large publicly traded company in Louisiana. I think at the time there were only 2. I think it was just us and Entergy. Right. I married a girl who had roots in Plaquemine, so we kind of split the difference and moved across the river. And we lived in Bruley. If you went down my street in Bruley and never stopped, you would run into the levee. And then at the levee is Tiger Stadium right across the river. So we loved it, and never thought I would move home, never thought I would leave Shaw. And then, June of 2012, we find out that we got acquired by a company out of the Woodlands, Texas, and just being on the wrong side of an acquisition kind of gives you an uncomfortable feeling. Wasn't really looking to leave the company. at the time of the acquisition, I was doing some business development down in the Eagleford Shale in South Texas in the oil and gas construction. And, CB&I, who had acquired us, had a heavy presence in oil and gas. And so just never really felt right, but I was going to fall back to my engineering roots, I guess, and I always had opportunities to go back and work with our government clients on the consulting side. And then I got a random call, honestly, and you know who called me, a guy named Hugh Caffrey, and asked me if I would be interested in talking about a position with the Bayou Lafourche Freshwater District. And quite honestly, I thought he was nuts when he called. And, I was like, so there was a link. There was a mutual link there. So their attorney, the Freshwater District's attorney, Barry Marino, who still is the Freshwater District attorney, is from Plaquemine. Barry and I had worked together when I was on the engineering side at Shaw. We had interacted on some work with Iberville Parish government. And so he actually initiated the call and asked me if I would be interested in meeting with Hugh. And, I'm like, going from the business to doing business development in the oil and gas sector. And mind you, in 2012 and 2013, when oil and gas was $105, $6 a barrel, life was good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was good days.
And fun.
Yeah.
Cool, that was the most fun I ever had. To then come home and take a government job. I'm like, I don't know about this. But, the more I thought about it, I was driving back and forth to South Texas. Yeah. Luckily, by this time, iPads were very prevalent, so I was able to watch my, 2-year-old at the time grow up. I could FaceTime him, but that wasn't living, and so it was like, I really need to do this. And so it was a family decision. It wasn't an easy decision. I tell you, I never really wanted to leave the people that I was working with. That was one of those decisions that weighed on me very, very hard. Every day. So the first probably 8 months, I commuted down to Thibodaux.
Oh, wow.
To our office.
Yeah.
From Bruley, about an hour and 10-minute drive. And every day for probably the first 4 or 5 months, I'd be driving in like, what in the hell did I get myself
What did I do?
And, looking back, that was the greatest decision I ever made. The opportunity that they gave me at the Freshwater District was challenging. When I came in, we had just recently wrapped up a large dredging project, and there was some outstanding litigation that was really complicated. And we had some other financial commitments from the state that we had kind of fallen behind on. So it was a challenge, and we just got to work and, worked hard, stayed persistent, and, 11 years later, I feel like we accomplished a lot at the Freshwater District, and that's what brought me home. So I commuted for a year. Once I figured out that, the water was a little safe, that we decided to move. And talking about these external factors, my natural tendency being from Berg and growing up in Houma was to move to Houma. Well, back then, they hadn't yet repealed the Biggert Waters Act, which was the first shot at the flood insurance reform. And so the areas that I thought I wanted to move to in Houma, had some fairly questionable immediate future on what the flood insurance rates were going to be. And so we decided we were going to move to Thibodaux, find us a little house with higher elevation and kind of wait it out and see. And then we just fell in love with Thibodaux. And so we decided to build a house there and plant our flag. And so I catch a lot of crap from my buddies back here. But it's good. We love it. So, it's one of those things that you can't really understand why you decided to take the leap, but I'm forever grateful for the opportunity that they gave me. And I certainly wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today if I wouldn't have seized that opportunity and jumped on it. So,
And look, so you've dedicated the vast majority of especially your professional career to this infrastructure and to the restoration and protection of our our land, of our waterways, of our people, really, in our communities, because they're all tied together. Why'd you do that? Like, what is it about it that speaks to you?
Well, I grew up in Berg. I mean, I used to, when I got my driver's license, the first thing I did once my parents, knew that I was okay to drive, I mean, I'd hook up and drive a little boat down the Cocodrie and just ride around in the ship channel and go fishing. And, our family land was in Chauvin behind Marty J's.
Yep.
And, if you go back there now, half of it's gone.
Yeah.
There's a levee that had to cut across the middle of it. The outside of it's gone.
Wow.
So we had to sacrifice half of our family's property to preserve the other half, And so it's personal, really. The motivating factor really on a daily basis is there's so many people who are still in this region that followed all the rules, that built everything to code, to the proper elevation, and they're now getting to a point in their life where they were supposed to be able to enjoy their life, and it's completely wrecked by things that are out of their control. And that's really unfortunate when you spend your whole life to pay off your house in Chauvin or Dulac or Grand Caillou or Montague. And now, because nothing you did, your largest investment that you paid off on your entire life, you built it to the right elevation, you built to the right code, is now worthless because you can't sell it because nobody's going to buy it. It's truly unfortunate.
It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so that's the motivation. And, just watching my dad and watching my grandfather. Obviously, I come from a political family, and that's why growing up I hated politics. But, watching them fight for everything to, our way of life to remain as normal as we can. We understand that it's not going to be what Cocodrie doesn't look like what it looked like when I was driving my old beat up Blazer down there. But it really hits you whenever you hear about, when I was riding in the car with my dad, and you hear about coastal erosion and storm surges and things like that you can't process when you're 10, 11 years old. Now I'm bitching about the same stuff that they were bitching about when I was a kid.
Yep.
And it really hits you like, we're in for the fight of our life.
Yeah.
And we're never, ever going to be able to stop fighting. But the good thing is we got the right people. I think we have the people in this region who are up for the challenge. We don't want a handout. We just ask for a hand. If we were given what we're duly deserved for our contributions to the United States and the global energy economy, if we had been given what we deserved, then we would be in a much better position today than we are in today. And that's just the fact of life, and there's nothing we can do about it. What's happened in the past.
Yeah, but we got to move forward.
But we can roll our sleeves up and keep fighting.
Yep.
So
excellent. And does that mean I'm not going to see your name on a ballot anytime soon?
Oh Lord, I would never rule that out.
Okay.
I know that's the answer everybody says.
Yeah.
I hated politics, honestly, mainly because as a kid growing up, I watched it cut Thanksgiving dinner short, Christmas is short. It's still sometimes every now and again, we don't get to hang out all Good Friday because we start talking about, and it's just, nowadays politics are so polarized, right?
Yes.
But when I took the job with the Freshwater District, I didn't have a choice but to get involved. I almost became obsessed with it.
Huh.
Like I still find myself riding and watching committee hearings at the Capitol. And, he's going to kill me for saying this, but when I first started at the Freshwater District, Narby, Uncle Narby, was in the Senate. And so I would lean on him on a lot of questions. We were joking one day, and he says, he called me a politically inept rube. And I was like, I'm not even offended because I mean, you're right.
Right.
I'm asking dumb questions, but it's because I want to know and I want to understand this. And he taught me so much. And just, Uncle Marty and just my dad being around politics, it really, 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 I became obsessed with it. And almost like I wanted to show Narby that I wasn't going to be a politically inept rube my whole life. I would watch committee hearings, and when they would do something procedural, I would text him. I'm like, hey, what just happened? Why? How can you do that? And, so I've come a long way, I feel like.
Well, good.
I enjoy it, but I understand that where we live regionally, the industry that has provided for all of our families to some degree is always going to be under attack. And it's absolutely necessary that we send the right people to represent us in Washington, in Baton Rouge, and in the respective local governments. So it's important, and so I would never rule it out if I had the calling to do something of public service. The most gratifying position I ever had was when I was at the Freshwater District. Look, it was challenging. Working in the public sector, y'all know, it's especially with Facebook nowadays, you can't make everybody happy.
Right.
The only thing you can do is do what you know is right. Everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, it's
and
rewarding.
So,
So I have your word that when you announce your campaign, you're going to do it right here on Bridging the Bayou, right?
Right, yeah.
So one other quick question. I imagine there are some folks out there who are like, what in the world is a freshwater district? What does that mean for folks who are watching or listening and just like, this Bayou Lafourche Freshwater District? And is there more than one freshwater district in the state?
Well, there's actually two, yeah. So there's two freshwater districts in the state. And so Bayou Lafourche Freshwater District is a political subdivision of the state, equivalent to a levee district. That particular entity was formed by the legislature in 1950.
Oh, wow.
It was originally formed with a focus on providing the potable water source for those parishes, those municipalities, and, the controlling industry at the time, which was, the sugar mills. And then over time, as, coastal land loss became more prevalent, one of the leading causes of that is saltwater intrusion. Then the legislature added some authority to the freshwater district to utilize Bayou Lafourche with its confluence with the Mississippi River to push more fresh water down into the region to combat saltwater intrusion.
Okay.
Obviously saltwater is a threat to the potable drinking water source, but more so it's a major and imminent threat to our coastal estuary. We work tirelessly on implementing a program that's been around and studied for decades called the Mississippi River Reintroduction into Bayou Lafourche project, and that project aimed at over doubling the freshwater capacity that was being pumped from the Mississippi River into Bayou Lafourche. And the cornerstone project of that was a new pump station in Donaldsonville. And in 2022, we broke ground, 21 maybe, we broke ground on a $96 million pump station in Donaldsonville to do that. And so there's a bunch of other project components that were implemented over the times, but that was the highlight. So in that 11 years, we're proud that we made about $180 million worth of improvements to that whole system. So, but there is another one.
I was going to say, for those people out there who are looking for some fun trivia questions, what's the other?
The Vermilion Freshwater District.
The Tesh Vermilion Freshwater District.
They pump water off the Atchafalaya River into in Crotch Springs, into that whole Vermilion Mermentau Basin. So for a salinity control standpoint. So there are two.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you heard it here. If you're looking for a good trivia question about Louisiana, that's a great one. All right.
Actually, and I'll tell you, if you want to ever see the difference between what the Corps of Engineers builds versus what the Department of Public Works builds historically, go look at the Bayou Lafourche Freshwater District Pump Station, which was built by the Department of Public Works. and then go look at the Tesh Vermilion pump station, which was built by the Army Corps of Engineers, and you'll see the difference. One is a Cadillac in Tesh Vermilion, and the other is like an old beat-up Miata.
Oh, wow.
So when money's not that big of an issue and the federal government's paying, you get the Cadillac. So
now, look, I'm just going to tell you, I had a friend who had a Miata, and we thought we were pretty darn cool.
They were cool.
They were cool. No, just not anymore.
right.
So real quick, I just want to ask you about the Fletcher Foundation. Maybe you want to share a little bit about why you exist, what does the foundation do, but also I just want to know from your perspective, like why do you do it? Why are you the chair? Why are you still involved with us here at the foundation?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little earlier. I got involved with the Fletcher Foundation at, the request of my chairman at the Freshwater District at the time, Hugh Caffrey.
Who was our chair at the time,
Who was the chair at the time. And, he was really motivated to kind of take the foundation into a new direction, I guess, is probably the best way that I could put it. And, I was up for the challenge and wanted to get involved and felt like I needed to get involved. And so started coming around, and I think that was right around the time you came on board.
It was.
And so I got involved when you came on, and, I was embarrassed actually when I came here that I didn't know hardly anything about the college, right? Now, growing up, it wasn't here. It was...
Yep, we were at the old St. Charles Street location.
That's right, in St. Charles. And so, every day, and still today, every time I come around, I feel like I learn another little nugget about Fletcher that I didn't know. And it's like the more I learned, the more I realized what a gem this place really, really is for this entire region, right? And I always thought you had to go to 4-year college to be successful and get a degree, and when you walk these halls and you see the people in the classes, and you really get a chance to interact with some of the students. I'll never forget one of the most impactful things that really sucked me in was the first scholarship reception that I attended. And to see the business and industry who's putting up the money for the students, to be able to interact with that actual student. And there was a student, I can't remember his name. He's still around. I feel like he might have been incarcerated for a little while, and he spoke several times about the opportunity that Fletcher had provided him, and it was really touching. And whenever you get to interact with the students and really hear about how this place has changed the trajectory of their lives, their kids' lives, their families' lives, the kids they may not know they have yet, it's hard not to get gravitated to this place. And so it's something that I've been drawn to, and I feel like we've accomplished a lot over that time, but there's still some unfinished business that I'd like to try to move some initiatives forward. And so I think I got 2 years left before y'all give me the boot, and so I'll do my very best to.
Yeah, I'll find some other way to rope you in.
No, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for all you've done for us with the foundation. And by the way, we did start at the same time, and this January will be 10 years. So I don't know if you realize we've known each other for a decade now.
That's right. Good Lord.
I know we met when we were 18.
Yeah, right.
You were probably 12. I don't know. You're probably way younger than that. So, all right. Well, let's bring this home. I always like to end my interviews trying to find out a little bit maybe about you that you didn't know that I knew. So I talked to a couple of friends of yours. They may not be friends of yours after this. So first of all, I'm to understand you are throwing out a first pitch.
It was actually just recently.
Okay.
So I threw out the first pitch for the Nichols LSU baseball game.
Okay.
At Nichols.
Did it go well?
I mean, define well. I didn't
did
hurt
you get
myself.
It to the? You did. Okay, that's number one. You didn't hurt yourself.
The catcher was able to catch it.
All right.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as like 50
home plate.
Cent or some of these iconic, horrible first pitches. I felt like it had a little velocity. It was not even remotely close to a strike. But, the crowd kind of got in my head.
Yeah,
I jumped
I'll
the
bet.
gun. I went to throw the pitch, and the marketing lady with Nichols stopped me like in the middle of it. And so I was winding up and I was ready to throw it, and she
said,
stopped me, and I was
"Stop!"
like, "Wait, what happened?" Well, then the fans turned on me. They started yelling "balk," and it got in my head, and so at that point I was ruined, and so I just read back and threw it as hard as I could, and it wasn't even remotely close to a strike, but nobody got hurt.
There you go.
And
nobody was injured.
That's right.
In the making
And
of
they let
this
me
pitch.
remain for the rest of the game.
Well,
So,
that's good. Did
yeah.
everybody cheer for you at the end? I hope.
I hope so. I was ready to get off of that field after I was getting heckled by the local crowd.
Well, there you go. Well, look, I promised you I'd come back to it since you wanted a softball question. Favorite dish to make? Because I know that you're a fantastic cook. I have tasted your wares, and I know this to be fact. So
I like to dabble in a lot of different things, but, my favorite dish is probably, I do a beef Wellington. I really like steaks.
okay.
That's kind of bland, not bland, but it's kind of boring. I've heard other answers of pork rôtis and all kinds of crazy stuff, but I've never been a baker. Like, I've never been good at baking because I don't have the discipline or the patience to sit down and measure stuff. And so the one dish that I really like to cook, and it takes some time because there's several steps to it, is a beef Wellington. And it's like, because there's a baking component, and it makes me feel like
Yeah.
I've accomplished something, and it's really pretty and it's delicious. If I'm really trying to impress somebody and I have some time, then you'll get a beef Wellington.
I know, I don't know if you've posted recently, but on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it these days, there's always sort of these round robins of who's cooking what on the weekend. So let's settle it once or for all. Who is the better cook, you or Norby Schaber?
It's not even comparable.
You're the better cook?
I'm way better. Yeah.
You heard that here. Norby,
yeah.
if you want to come on and dispute that, you call me.
So he's actually recently sabotaged one of my cooking competitions. I don't know that he really likes to see my trophies up in my office. And so last year, he and Chet Chasson and myself cooked in the Huddle Up cook-off.
Yes.
And I let him convince me that we needed to make some last-minute changes to our dish, and we didn't get to defend our crown.
Oh.
And I really believe that it was a sabotage. So from an internal team member would hurt deep. So no, he's incredible. He cooks some of the fanciest dishes. And look, before our Thanksgiving gatherings get busted up when we get into politics, that's a marvel you need to see. Okay. You need to come to a Chabert Malbrough Christmas or Thanksgiving gathering to see the food that gets prepared. We come from a family of chefs. My sister has several restaurants. Yes. My brother has a catering company out in Midland and Odessa, where all the rest of us, Uncle Marty had a restaurant. Yeah. So it's so funny because I vividly remember being at Uncle Marty's place in Woodville, and there was a pot of gumbo on the stove, and we're just sitting around watching TV, and somebody passed by it and stirred it and was immediately reprimanded not to touch the spoon. And the response was, well, your onions were burning. And, I mean, within like 7 minutes, there was all of a sudden now this full-fledged gumbo cooking competition.
Oh, nice.
Because it was, my onions aren't burning. I know what I'm doing. Why do you think you could cook a better gumbo than me? And watch this. And so, I mean, it's impressive. But that's my relaxation. There's nothing that I would rather do than sit in a kitchen all day and just cook and cook and cook all day and feed people as long as there'll be people that come through and eat. that's my therapy.
Nice. Well,
So-
look, I'll keep an eye out for an invitation just in case there's an extra space at the table. But I'm going to end with this. Somebody said that while you're doing all this cooking, that sometimes there's colorful language. Is that true or false?
Oh, God, I do have a foul mouth sometimes. All right, let's go back to the very first question that you asked. What would I tell
Right.
my kid self? Stop cursing so much. I don't
Okay.
want to.
I don't want to.
But yeah, sometimes I use foul language, but it is what it is. I try to
That's all
keep
right.
it under control.
There you go. All right. I'm sure the kids help a little.
Yeah, keep it under control around the kids.
There you go. Well, look, Ben, thank you so much for joining us here today on Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. Always a joy to spend time with you. Again, thank you so much for your service to the college and your service to our region. You are one person who I have met who along my life, that service is just a part of who you are. It is core to how you live your life, personally and professionally. And I think for those of us in the community, we need to say thanks to people like you for all that you do for us.
Yeah, I appreciate
so thank
that.
you.
It's ingrained in my DNA, and it's not because of me. It's because of the way I was raised. So kudos to my parents and grandparents and family members. So
Absolutely. Well, look, hopefully you all enjoyed this episode of Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. We are excited to welcome our future guests. But for now, take care of yourselves and be sure to like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.